Hi guys, so welcome to the part two of sourcing data. In the part one, we looked at sourcing data from the UCI data repository. Here we are going to be looking at sourcing data from Kaggle. If you're learning for the first time, it's important that you have places where you would want to seek out a data set that is free. Right. So the first thing I would advise you to do is, head over to Kaggle. If you have not signed on to Kaggle, I would advise you do that. It's an easy activity. You just simply sign up and then you're expected to sign in with your email address. Right. So now, one data set I like to work with, or one I like to advise people to do, or what I like to advise people to do is to head over to the competitions area and look for the Titanic data set. It's a competition here. It's here. Right, so there are a bunch of competitions that just help people learn from scratch. And this is, for me, it breaks the record as one of the best ways to learn data science and machine learning from scratch. Right, so here we have a data set. You basically get to read up about the legendary Titanic event and what this whole Titanic competition is about. But in summary, it is just for you to learn, getting started, with data science, doing exploratory data analysis and stuff. So what I want to do here is I want us to come to this data area. Then we have two data sets here, split into two, the training data set and the test data set. And the training data set it's explained over here, which is used to build machine learning models. But here we just want to first of all deal with looking at the data. Of course, here it also has a data dictionary that tells you the different features and columns, and we'll talk about all these terminologies as we proceed. So first thing I want to do is I want to download this data set. You can see that the train data set. So I click on download, and again I'll store it. And I already have that. So I basically would not be doing that, but I already have that. So I store it in my directory, right? So with that, I head back to my Jupyter notebook, and just to confirm that I have the data here, I can look at the data itself, and then I can see what I'm dealing with. You can see that. You can see it has, unlike the last one, this one has headers. It has column headers, and so we're going to look at what it looks like. So yes, we have already imported pandas, right? So the first thing we want to do is we would like to read the data load the data as a data frame. Again, simple stuff. I could call this Titanic underscore data. Really intuitive. And then I use the pd.read CSV method. And obviously here we have the trained data, and it's in CSV format, which is comma separated value. It's a flat file. Something similar to an Excel sheet, but not an Excel sheet. Right, so we have this already. And so when we run this, we have loaded this data into a data frame, and the data frame is inside Titanic data here. So which is the variable. So we've loaded the data frame into this variable. Right. Now the next thing we would want to do is so again in this second part, I'll be talking about maybe a few steps that you follow when you're trying to understand the data you're working with. One thing is to use the shape attributes. So if I call Titanic data, then I use dot shape. So it's called an attribute because you see that it does not have brackets in front of it, right? So whenever you see a method without a bracket in front of it, it's an attribute, right? So here I check the shape, and you can see that now I have 891 rows it can also be called observations, and then here I have 12 columns, so the rows first and then the column second. Or in terms of axis, something called axis is called axis 0 and axis 1. So that's what their representation is about. So now we have this. Now we want to look at what the data looks like. We even want to let's just document this here. We say we're looking at the dimensions. Let's call that, yeah, looking at the dimension of the data frame, right? So we've seen that. Then next we could also want to see we use another what do you call it, attribute columns, and this shows us the names of, we have an index or with a list here, like showing us the names of you can see it over here, the column names here. So all these steps can be done with different data sets and that, so right, so you can see that. Then the next thing is you want to read the first 5 rows, and the first 5 rows basically is using the head. Also, an interesting thing happens whenever you put your cursor in between these brackets. You can hit Shift and Tab, and it shows you a documentation. It's really important to read through the documentation, right? You can see over here, tells you Titanic_data.head n, so which tells you integer 5. So but by default it's there, so I don't have to put that. It returns the first n rows, which is 5, and it explains what it does. You can see that this function returns the first n rows for the object based on position. It is useful for quickly testing if your object has the right type of data in it, so which is important, right? So I run this, and you can see that here I can see my data. I can see everything. I can see them. I could basically look at them. So you can see from eyeballing this data, you can start to make sense of it. We have a passenger ID. You can see numbers that goes from 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Of course, you can see that Pandas creates an index for us. This index starts from 0. In fact, you can see the index by simply typing index, I think, yep, and it brings that. Oh, it's not callable, so it's an attribute. So yeah, so it's an attribute. So yep, you can see starts at 0, stops at 891, takes a step here. So that's that. Then if we go back to the head again, so we can see all what we have here. Now, so interesting thing is, you notice that all this, if you look at all the column names, these guys are the columns. We can also call them features, and then these are the rows, which are observations. And so if you go back here, you notice that there is you can see that there's a data description. You can see what all these are all about. Tells you the way the data is set up, the kind of the kind of data types you have that's here. So again, that's basically this. And so it just gives you a sense. You can also look at the data and eyeball it from here and see what here. You can see this, CNAN, not a value or not a number, which is what Pandas uses if there are missing values. So one final thing I would show you guys is, so here, okay, let me document this part. So we have this, which is attributes for reading column names, right? And then this, of course, first 5 rows, and then finally what I'll also do is you want to see a concise summary of your data, and so you can use something called Titanic.info. So this is a method, not an attribute. And then once you run this, it just shows you everything you have in your data. You can see that you have 12 columns. You have 12 columns, and you have 891 entries over here. You see the total of the count of each value in that you have. It's 891. You notice there's 714 here, and you see over here you have 204. See over here you have 889. So it tells you that they're missing values. We're going to talk about all this as we proceed. And yep, you can see all that. Then here you have data types, right? Remember in introduction to Python, we talked about different data types, strings, numbers. So you look at this and you see them over here. Sometimes there might just be some weird confusion, and pandas might not know the data type or figure out the data type. So it's just going to represent them as objects. Or sometimes, depending on how it comes out, it could be different stuff. Your job as a data analyst is to understand the perspective for which you are analyzing the data and the columns, and then try to figure out what is the appropriate data type. So yeah, recap. Again, this is sourcing data from Kaggle, and here we went to the Titanic machine learning competition in Kaggle. I'll drop the link in the description for you to sign up on Kaggle. Really interesting place to be when learning data analysis or data science from scratch. We looked at the shape of the data we collected. We looked at the column attributes, and then we checked the first 5 rows. Then finally, we looked at the summary. The summary of the data frame, right? So basically this is it, right? So I mean, take your time and watch this video, share with folks you know who are learning stuff, and then like and subscribe, so when I put up these videos, you get a notification. Thank you for watching till the very end.